And we are live. What is up, everybody? Aaron the dog back with Lucky Locks for the second to last week, week 9 of Dana White's Contender series here. And yeah, it might be time for a break based on the level of contenders we're talking about on this series of the Contender series. But still interesting fights. I think a couple of them are a little more competitive than the lines indicate. So I'll be excited to talk to you about that, Lucky Locks. How you doing tonight?
I'm not doing too badly, man. I think we had a pretty good week last week. I couldn't get a price I loved on Louis Jourdain, so I just chucked him in a parlay for PFL, and he came through as expected, which was great. And yeah, second last card of the year for Contender Series, and yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. Some of these fights are a little more competitive than the others, and yeah, I'm excited to hear what you think about them, nonetheless.
Yeah, it's definitely been a successful Contender series. Betting wise and pick wise, I got penis last week. We got penis on the penis, so congratulations there. Him and a few other hits, but yeah, we'll move on to this week's card. Interesting set of contenders, but yeah, at the same point, I'm going to be honest here. It's not my favorite crop of the Contender series, so we'll be interested to hear your thoughts regardless. 205 starting with Hernandez fighting Rafael Pergentino. Yeah, this is two Brazilian fighters, or a Brazilian versus the American out of New Jersey, who I believe has trained with Alex Pereira. He's a Cage Fury as well, champion over there. Won the title and defended it against Christian Edwards. Yes, that Christian Edwards who lost to Big Tuna, and his career has proceeded to go the way of losing decisions to guys like Luke Fernandez. Luke Fernandez, he's all right. He kind of moves forward. He's a boxer. Does have some grappling experience, but I haven't really seen too much of that in his fights. He choked out Phil Hawes in a grappling fight for what that's worth. So great. Pergentino, a Brazilian guy who's fought a bunch of guys. I haven't been able to see too much. His BFC fight against Sandro Santos, 8-4 fighter. The rest of it against guys I've never heard of at all. The one fight I was able to find was against Pedro Viana. Pedro Viana did not look like an active fighter during that fight. He just kind of got punched until Pergentino stopped. Was stopped. It's just one of these spots where Luke Fernandez's price I'm not interested in at all. I'm sure he wins this fight. He probably finishes him at the end of the first round, maybe at the beginning of the second round. Rafael seems to have limited gas, but could be dangerous early. So if you want to take a shot on a big dog, I don't blame you. I'm leaving this one alone, but Luke Fernandez probably gets it done somewhere inside the distance.
Yeah, so Pergentino he's the champion in Noche de Guerra, and this is just another random Brazilian guy. I just don't know where they find these guys. I just don't know who would have ever seen this guy fight. And the thing is, like, there's a lot of prospects in Brazil. If you just looked at any given LFA Brazil card, they have way better guys than when they just pull these randoms with unsubstantial records out of nowhere. So not like every one of those guys on those cards is like a UFC prospect, but they're all at least like a legitimate regional guy.
Yeah.
So listen, I mean, Pergentino, I wasn't really super impressed with him. Spoiler alert. I thought his boxing looked okay at times, but really was unremarkable. I actually thought his clinch work was okay. Knees in the Muay Thai clinch, uppercuts. He had some nice framing elbows, but kind of wings, hooks at range seems very hittable. Fernandez is a guy that I like. He's a CFFC lifer. He was amateur champion there, professional champion there. He's even the champion there in their BJJ side promotion. You mentioned he beat Christian Edwards in the last fight, and he has some good grappling wins over UFC fighters as well. He's a different level athlete than Pergentino. And and he's a different level fighter as well, in my opinion. So, I'm almost 100% certain he's a much better wrestler and grappler, and I think on the feet he might be a little cleaner there too. So, I
Yeah.
got to think he's going to be able to win this fight. I don't know what to say.
Yeah, the unders at minus almost 300, minus 280, under the under 1.5. Like I just think this is a step down from Christian Edwards significantly. Maybe a sub play on Luke Fernandez, but other than that, not much.
I don't mind the sub either. I think that's a decent shout.
Yeah. So that would probably be most likely. You can get a good price because I don't believe he has a sub on his MMA career yet. So
yeah, he doesn't.
Yeah, so not a bad shout there. Stubborn Mick thinking the same thing there. Next fight here, who the fuck knows fight at 170. First of all, who the fuck knows why these two were selected? Well, I'll tell you, Luis Felipe Diaz or whatever his name is, he wasn't even supposed to be here. Jimmy Pace was here, and then his fight he lost his opponent, and then Diaz came in as the opponent, and then Jimmy Pace bowed out. Jimmy Pace, the great Jimmy Pace. I mean, like we were just dying at the bit to get Jimmy Pace Jr. on this program. But we'll have to wait for next season for that. But now Felipe Diaz, allegedly a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, taking on Donovan Hendrick, mostly a kickboxer. He has a really weird knockout. I believe in his last fight against Felipe Torres or Frederick Torres or F. Torres. He's going in for a takedown and his like body stops moving. Just like goes out. So kind of has like a Petrosky knockout on his record. He's got those hard hips, like a Malkoun. Diaz, not like amazing anywhere, kind of fine everywhere. He just kind of plods on the feet. He'll switch stances at times for no reason and then switch back. He's been knocked out before. To me, like, Hedrick does kind of give up like his leg wrestling positions at times, I feel like, and Diaz is going to, I feel like, try to go to the ground and be on top where he has an advantage from a grappling perspective. I don't know. I'll take the new, possibly unproven prospect in Hedrick. I just don't want to see Diaz really just lay on top of him and possibly maybe run into a sub, but most likely just grapple for 15 minutes and then Dan White said, I'm not giving you a contract, but I'll take Donovan Hendrick. And I don't know. I'll take him to get a decision because why not?
Yeah, I mean, Mick totally in the chat summed this one up perfectly. He said, what a mess this one is. Like, what the hell is this fight, man?
I don't know.
Hedrick is in on short notice, right? He's fighting out of Central Florida at like an ATT affiliate gym, not the main one. I know he's gotten a little bit of training in with some decent guys. I guess he's a grappler. There's not very much footage. You can watch a couple of his fights. They're all about 1 minute.
Yes.
He does have nice ground and pound from top position, and it seems like he knows what he's doing positionally. But I really haven't seen much of him on the feet. And, Diaz, on the other hand, 15-5 on Tapology. I mean, there's some fights that, they count and don't count. I don't know. He had kind of like a decent run 5 years ago. He beat Wendell Oliveira and, Benito Antunes for the Shuto belt. Those are probably his best wins, I would say. And those aren't really that great, but they are better than anybody Hedrick's ever fought. And yeah, he was supposed to fight two other guys. Diaz was on Contender Series this year. They kept falling out. He's 3-2 in his last 5. He went over to Brave for a bit, couldn't quite cut it. He fought half decent guys though, like Marcin Bandel's like okay. He's fought in the UFC and other big shows. Luis Cotto is also okay. I think he's champion now in Brave, so that's kind of excusable. He also lost to Mario Souza back in the day. But yeah, I mean, he's kind of a brawler. I just don't really know the level of Hedrick, and that's what makes this one tough to call, right? Because Diaz, right. I know his level. He's not really that good. He's pretty rudimentary on the feet. He has a little bit of resistance to takedowns, but not really that much. I mean, I guess he has good explosivity earlier in his fights, and maybe he could knock out Hedrick. But yeah, to me, Hedrick just seems like he's got a little bit more of a fine-tuned process, and I feel like I kind of know what he's going to try to do. I honestly don't know if he can do it, but, look, Diaz isn't good. He's probably the best guy Hedrick has ever fought. He's a legitimate, like, actual regional guy, not like these guys that are on combat night in Florida. But listen, Diaz is definitely a beatable guy. So I'm gonna go with the unknown. I'm gonna join you and pick Hedrick.
Yep, he's at -105 technically. Dog and -125 to Diaz. That's just a fight I don't really want much to do with. The over 1.5 in that fight is +125. I think that's kind of interesting. I'm looking at one of these juiced overs to go after on this card, and I think that could possibly be one. And I'll talk about another one that I could be interested in. But overall, I'm going to be passing on this one because who the fuck knows? All right. 125 Roque Jr. taking on Emmanuel Rodriguez, Hitman, or Highman, I should say. I watched some Roque tape. I liked quite a bit of what I saw, actually. Like he's one of the not too bad prospects from Brazil that we've got on this bunch of the Contender series. He's another guy who fought Hugo Paiva, so take a shot at home. He was in a close fight with Hugo Paiva, like everybody who's decent, I guess, is. He was on the short end of split decision. It was his second or third fight of his career. He's 20 years old. He's definitely like a very offensively minded fighter. I think this is going to be a pretty offensive fight between these two. I'm not a big Ultimate Fighter fan, so I had to go and catch up on the Ultimate Fighter, watching the couple fights with Rodriguez. I was impressed. He's an action, forward sort of fighter. He definitely was in a tough fight with Joe Morales. It was a close fight. I think he lost it. I don't think he won that fight, but it was close. It was competitive. With Roque, predominantly he's going to want this to take place on the feet. I'll be interested to kind of see how Rodriguez responds here. I think Rodriguez is a more well-rounded fighter, but I do think he could be kind of drawn into a firefight here. And this is the dog I'm going to be at least taking a slight shot on in Roque. I don't know. I have a weird feeling about this fight. I think that I like the length of Roque as well. Like, I think he's a little more varied on the feet. I think he could, Rodriguez is very offensive. I think the defensive striking could be caught here, but both these guys, I think, could get caught on the feet and put away, which is kind of rare to say in a 125 fight. But, I'll be interested to see Rodriguez's game plan as well. But I like the level of competition and, that Roque's fought in as well. And, it's got double the amount of fights. I think that takes, precedent a little bit here. But we'll see. I think this fight is being, for Rodriguez to win. He's very exciting coming off of the, Ultimate Fighter, but I don't really care about any of that. So, Lucky, tell me why I'm wrong.
I think this should be a fun fight. You mentioned Rodriguez on the Ultimate Fighter. Regionally, he's been on, Budo Sento, Combate, Fury, 5-0 guy. 1-1 in the Ultimate Fighter. He lost a split decision to the eventual champion in Morales. And outside of MMA, I think he's a Pan American Sambo champ. And I think he's a pretty well-rounded guy. He's got some boxing, got some wrestling. He's very compact. Junior, on the other hand, was champion in Ragnarok and demo fight in Brazil. 2 losses. You mentioned it. Hugo Paiva, of course. Dennis Araujo is like another one of those guys who kind of like goes out to Russia sometimes and then fights out there. Usually they don't bring those guys in to win in Russia, by the way. And yeah, look, on paper, I was kind of lukewarm on Junior, but, watching him on tape, he's definitely better than I thought. He's a good athlete. He feints a lot. He does swing hard. For me, though, in this one, I think Rodriguez is just a little bit tighter, a little bit cleaner striker, more of just a polished, high-quality product. And, he's got the right backing behind him. So I think he's going to win, but, at this price, I'm not going to be involved.
Yeah, I got Junior a little over +200 yesterday. He's at +195, so it's kind of teetering on that, and it is what it is. I felt on this card there was a couple spots where I was interested, but there was 2 dogs that I was, kind of considering. And honestly, with Hedrick, I just don't know anything. And like you said, I did like what I saw in the tape a little bit more than I was expecting to here. So maybe I'm being a fool here, but he's like 5-6 years into his career now at this point too. So this is a decent flyweight fight between these two. I'm excited. I could definitely see this being one of those fights where both guys get a contract because it goes the distance, but it's like kind of a really good, or it's a really good fight, I should say. All right. Next fight here. Next fight, Adrian Luna taking on Martin Volgodin at 135 here. This fight, it's all right. I think Volgodin is the much smoother striker, more technical, kind of has good movement, good kicks to multiple levels. Kick, you kind of do the oblique kicks, the thigh kicks, the leg kicks will go up top. It's he's a small guy, he's a little guy, and Luna's a big guy for this weight class, but Luna doesn't do a whole lot from the fights I was able to find. I wasn't super impressed from what I saw from Luna. I just think Mark is a much better technical fighter. I'm kind of surprised it's as close as it is here, but this isn't super high level either. I'm not excited about either one of these guys. I just think Mark has a significant skill and technique edge here, and I just don't think Adrian Luna is very good from what I've seen, and I don't know if he's fought a whole lot of great guys on that 17-fight resume. So, I'll take the Nordic fighter, and I'll say he gets a finish somehow. I don't know, submission. Why not? I don't know. Not a good fight in my opinion.
Yeah, Luna, I mean, on paper has a really good record. Most known for fighting, FFC in Peru, Ultimate Warrior Challenge in Mexico. He's a champion there. And even used to fight at UCC in Panama as an amateur. So, he's fought everywhere there is to fight in Latin America, coming into this fight on a 14-fight win streak. And, he's a pretty resourceful guy. He wins fights via all three methods. I think he's a good grappler. He has pretty good back takes. What I can say about him on the feet is that, he's very game and he's not afraid to exchange. And I do think this guy's a dog, who's ready to go wherever you want to go. Vologden on the other side is fighting on All-Stars in Sweden, the champion in the All-Stars fight night over there, which I'm pretty sure is sponsored by the gym. I'm sure Moyes could tell us that if he was in the chat.
Yeah, we'll check with Moyes.
Yeah, fought in, a myriad of Russian promotions as well, most notably an MMA series. I think he also fought twice on Open. And, he fights on the outside, throws some unorthodox strikes out there, very bouncy, a lot of movement. Got some stick on his shots too. He is definitely, I agree with you, he's the more technical striker. But, I do think Luna could capitalize on some of his spins, get to the clinch, maybe to the ground. I don't know. I kind of think Vologden he just strikes me as a guy who's a little bit too pretty. And, I think as this fight goes on, I think Luna can take over, when you start getting into that second and third round. I don't know. I just think he's a dog. And that's the side I'm going with in this one.
Yeah. All right. So back-to-back disagreements there. You taking the dog in this one and Luna. I had a dog in the previous one. I have no interest in Mark Vologden. Betting him at minus 155. I'll say that right off the bat. The under 1.5 is at plus 170. So expecting this one to be the one fight that gets extended as well. So, we'll see. But, not a fight I want to get involved with. All right. We're on to the main event, and it's kind of a weird main event. Lucas Caldas taking on Magomed Zaidnukov. Here, this is like a pretty polished, technical Russian striker, I think, with, ability to definitely mix it up if he needs to. And Zaidnukov taking on a Brazilian brawler in Caldas. I think Caldas is going to come out and try to get in the face of Zaidnukov, pressure him. And, I think that Zaidnukov for the first round, ideally, this is the other fight where I was thinking about the over 1.5. I think Zaidnukov is going to win this fight. It's just a matter of how he wins this fight, in my opinion. The only way Caldas wins, I think, is knocking him out, obviously. At some point in this fight, I think Caldas could knock him out within the first 7.5 to 10 minutes or so. After that, I think Zainikov pretty much either gets it finished or kind of cruises to a decision, Russian style, that we've seen a few times on the season. Yeah. Dirty Dagestani plus 145 on the over 1.5. I think the over 1.5 here is the other spot I'm thinking. So I do think Zainikov gets it done. I think he takes a little bit of time. So between that and the Hendrick fight, those are the two where I'd go with the over, but I take the over 1.5 at plus 145 here. So yeah, Zainikov gets it done. Probably knocks him out after exhausting him.
Yeah, Caldas is kickboxer, Muay Thai guy, 6-1 in MMA. His only loss coming via disqualification, and in the loss, he was totally schooling that guy. It's kind of unfortunate it ended via DQ because he was miles better than his opponent there, and he's fought his whole career in Chuto, Brazil, and look, he hasn't really fought the best opponents, but he's a good striker and he looks strong. And look, he looked kind of like Junior. He looked kind of way better than what I was expecting. I guess my expectations may have been kind of unnecessarily low just because I wasn't familiar with him beforehand. But even the grappling seemed like half decent. Obviously, he's not exactly out there against Rodolfo Vieira, but Zainukov on the other hand is 7-0. He's a Muay Thai world champion. Getting lots of training in with the team Khabib guys, and he's been on Eagle FC, Fight Nights Global, RCC, and U8U Warriors, and look, he's just fought a much higher level of competition than Caldas, and Zainukov is kind of a similar style fighter to Caldas in a way, right? They're both kind of Muay Thai kickboxer type guys, and I just think he's kind of a little bit better at that game, and I definitely think he's a little bit better on the inside with the short shots. And, both of them I think are pretty good at range. I was surprised to see, Zainukov out at like minus 700 earlier in the week because I just don't really see it as that lopsided as a matchup. Yeah. But look, I think he's definitely shown his level against better fighters than Caldas have. So, yeah, I mean, Zainukov I just think is the better fighter in this matchup. But Caldas was kind of a pleasant surprise. I think this is a fun fight. I'm actually really looking forward to watching this one.
Yeah, and I kind of agree. I think that goes with the over, him being a little more cautious and Caldas having some skills to kind of hang in.
Yeah, I think the over is not a bad look. I think that's definitely very very possible here. Very plausible.
Yeah. So for the most part, we agreed on this card. Our disagreements coming on those middle two bantamweight and flyweight fights. I have Roque Jr. in the flyweight fight, while you have Adrian Luna in the bantamweight fight. Otherwise, we're on the same page with the who the fuck knows, but we're going with Hendrick on the Diaz fight, Luke Fernandez and Zainukov. The over on the Zainukov fight. Any other thoughts on this card before we bid adieu going into the final card of the Contender series? It's been a fun series.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. There's the Hedrick and Diaz fight. I mean, I guess they had to scrape something together to get a fifth fight, but I mean, that's like, I don't know what the deal is with that. I think the main event's going to be a lot of fun. Luke Fernandez is a guy that I like, so I'm excited to kind of see what he looks like here and what he can do in the UFC if he does get the contract. So, there's a few bright spots on this card, I think. Yeah. But, it's not the greatest thing they've put out there, but hey.
No, we definitely are getting to a point where we're getting to a point where we need a break. As of now, I'm doing the over 1.5 in the main or featured fight of the night. I got Roque Jr. at plus 205. That's about it as of now. So for myself and Lucky Locks, we'll see you next week for the finale, and then we'll be on a break for a while. Thank you, everybody, for the support. Peace out.